Hi, everyone, and welcome to Founder Feature by Javelin. Today, I'll be talking to Ryan Young, who's the founder and CEO of Fello, one of the exciting prop tech companies in our portfolio. Now, I spent a good part of my career doing startups in prop tech before I became an investor. And I will tell you, this is one of the most exciting companies I've worked on. It's a SaaS company that is growing at an incredible rate. The realtor community is adopting it full force. The technology is extremely sophisticated. And Ryan will tell you his story of his origins, why he noticed that there was a big need in the space that hadn't been done yet and was very hard to do, and how him and his team of co-founders got it done. I will tell you it follows a theme of ours at Javelin, which is to find, at least in prop tech, which is to find the very best realtors out there who are also clearly fantastic entrepreneurs, and hear what they're seeing, what problems they see out there that need solving, and find the ones that are truly capable of doing it. Ryan is all that. He had a phenomenal career as a realtor, even better as a tech startup founder, and I think you're going to be very intrigued by what he's building, how he's doing it, and where they go from here. So with that, let's hear from Ryan. Ryan, thanks for being with me today. It's so great to talk to you about the history of your path here and Fello. For those of you who don't know, this is Ryan Young. He's the founder and CEO of Fello. Yeah, give us one or two sentences of what Fello is, Ryan.
Fello, very simply, is a marketing automation platform that is really just focused on database engagement in the B2B, I would say, SMB space.
And I will say it's one of the SaaS companies that has probably the most capital efficient model I've seen in my 20 years of doing venture.
We are very, we are responsibly, aggressively growing. And while it is being venture backed, it is uncommon, the approach we're taking. Right now, it seems to be the strategy that is working well for us, that we're comfortable with, and we'll talk more about it, but there's a lot of benefits to the strategy we've taken.
Great. So before we get into all that, I'd love to just hear more about your path as a founder. So how did you start? What was the first thing you did?
Yeah, so I don't have the typical path of an entrepreneur. I actually started in the culinary industry. So I grew up in high school. During high school, cooking at a restaurant, and I fell in love with it. I was always a workhorse. And I cooked at this restaurant right as soon as I got out of high school. I'd go to work. And I actually was a really big high school football player in Northeast Ohio, in Cleveland, where I grew up. And I had this opportunity to play college ball. And I ultimately turned it down to go to culinary school. And so many people, I remember my senior year, I had this big game where they were all these, the newspapers were interviewing me, and they're like, where are you playing ball next year? What's the plans? And I'm like, I'm going to the Culinary Institute of America. And they're like,
have a great team.
Yeah, they have a football team. I'm like, absolutely not. But I fell in love with the just being in the kitchen and the creativity and the energy. And it was just, to me, what I thought I wanted to do for life. And so graduated, went to the Culinary Institute. After I left there, I actually went to UNLV for hospitality management, because I kind of realized restaurateur is more in the plans, opening restaurants, scaling restaurants. And, at the ripe age of 26, I had a quarter life crisis. I already been in the restaurant industry 10 years, cooked at some of the best restaurants in the world. And I just all of a sudden looked at my life and I'm like, what am I doing? I'm working every night. I'm working every weekend. I'm working every holiday, and I miss my family and my friends. And there's not as much of a social life. And so I said, what about moving back to Northeast Ohio, Cleveland, where I said I would never move back to, where I grew up. And my parents were in real estate. And I called him up and said, Mom, Dad, what do you think about me joining you, getting my real estate license and having a complete career shift at the age of 26?
Wow. So then you went into real estate, and you ended up building one of the biggest real estate groups in Ohio. So walk me through that a little bit.
Well, so I had the bright idea of getting into real estate in 2009. As you can imagine, that was probably the worst possible time you could get your real estate license, right after the financial crash. And, ultimately I joined my folks, and it was quite humbling to be living in Vegas, and I was working, several jobs, and I was making a ton of money for a 5-year-old. And I moved back to Cleveland, Ohio, in the middle of this recession, moved in back into my parents' house, got my real estate license while I was also, I was serving at a restaurant just to, kind of make ends meet. And it was an eye-opening experience. I didn't realize how severe the market was, right? And I got really quickly exposed to just the struggles that people were having buying and selling, and just the financial hardships people were having. But what was interesting was I always had crazy work ethic, and I was always just a workhorse, and I just outworked everyone. And from 2009 to, I'll say, 2013, I was on the phones every day when no one else was in the office. I was knocking on doors. I was in every networking group you could imagine. And, finally it started to click. The market started to open up a little bit. And next thing you know, started seeing some success in real estate. And then I got this taste, I started surrounding myself with people that were having more success and running bigger organizations. And I was like, I can do what they're doing. And then we started growing, and then we started scaling. And by 2000 and probably 17, we built the number one team in the state of Ohio. We scaled a really large organization. And then I got less into the sales side of it and more into the operating side. And then, that led us to the next venture.
So one story I want to get to before we get into Fello. Remind me how your culinary experience merged with your real estate strategy.
Yeah. Yeah. So back in 2009, you had to be as creative as possible to win business, right? It was tough. And I did everything from when I would help a buyer buy a home. I would have them invite their friends over, and I would cook like this crazy meal for them. And what it did was, it kind of created this networking opportunity of like, hey, my realtor is actually a formally trained chef. They're going to actually host a housewarming party. Come over. We're going to do it on Friday night or whatever it is. And they're going to lay out this entire spread, and we're going to have a good time. Well, think about how many clients I built in such a short period of time just by cooking at these broker opens. I donated a bunch of dinners for charity events for, I would say, high net wealth individuals that ultimately ended up buying my services. I would do brokers tours where I'd invite the brokers over. Just a quick funny story. My first ever $1 million listing was an older gentleman who couldn't sell his property. He had it on the market for a couple years. I called him up, cold call, and I said, I can sell your house. Trust me. I can sell it. I'm going to do something no one else has ever done. And he's like, every agent's been in my house. It's been on the market. What can you do differently? I said, I'm going to invite all the agents over for this big brokers tour, and I'm going to cook it personally myself, and I'm going to cater, and I'm going to do these, this crazy elaborate spread. So anyways, I invite all these agents. It's, this broker's tour. I'm sitting there and I'm doing a risotto to order, right? And I'm sitting there sauteing with my pan and stirring. I got these, and all these agents are around, and they're taking pictures, and they're like, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen. The guy comes back home after, and he's like, how was it? And I'm like, it was amazing. We had 100+ brokers here, like created all this excitement. And he looks down and he's like, what did you do to my cooktop? And I'm like, what are you talking about? It was a glass cooktop, which I'm not used to cooking on electric. I'm used to cooking in a stove where I'm moving pots and pans. I'm not just stirring, right? He's like, you scratched my glass cooktop. Now, this thing was probably 25 years old. And he's like, you have to buy me a new cooktop. I ended up having to buy him a new cooktop, and the house never sold. So my first ever $1 million listing resulted in a net negative of like $1,700. But you know what? It was so much fun, and it was a way to use creativity. And then I got to a point where the business started scaling so quickly that people wanted me to keep doing these dinner parties, and I just didn't have time, right? And that's when I realized, like, all right, I got to start building a team. I got to start actually scaling this thing.
So Fello followed two of the themes that I like to pursue. One of which is in the prop tech industry specifically, backing people that were the top 0.1% of realtors, because they're not just great realtors, they're also great entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
And the other was the concept of algorithm plus human is better than algorithm alone. And I'd love for you to talk about kind of the impetus of Fello and how you combine those things.
Yeah. Well, to understand the story of Fello, you have to understand the story of Flash House. Really quickly, the young team, I started being extremely entrepreneurial in how we started a lot of our marketing campaigns. And we started doing back in like 2016, 2017, this guaranteed offer. And the guaranteed offer was basically, if I can't sell your house, I would buy it myself, right? And it created all this demand, seller demand, et cetera. This is really right when we started seeing iBuyers kind of starting to come up. It was still early stages for them. And once it hit about 2019, some of the largest iBuyers were really starting to pick up some steam, a lot of tailwinds. And so me and my partner, Steven, we'll talk more about him, ultimately, I reached out to him, childhood friends, and said, what do you think about us doing an iBuyer in the Midwest, right? And we know that if we start acquiring properties here where we know the market really intimately, we know that there's a lot of margin there. We know that the young team has a great distribution channel for the message, and we can very quickly start to scale this throughout the Midwest. And what I think is so important is what we realized as we started scaling Flash House was, okay, this is a great business. It's a great local business. But if you apply some software to it and you really start to scale this and you start actually marketing to becoming really intentional with how you're marketing this message, not only B2B to agents, to their customers, but also direct to consumer, you can all of a sudden start to really scale quickly. And what we found was there was all this was probably 2019, 2020, where there was all this pressure from iBuyers. And what we saw was iBuyers were kind of making offers algorithmically. And it almost seemed like, being a local real estate professional, there is no true way to scale the iBuying model with just algorithms, right?
It's dangerous.
And so all of a sudden we started thinking through and we're like, well, Flash House is buying homes locally, but if we really want to scale this, we need the agent partner to support our models, right? Because once again, we started introducing technology. And the logic was, how do we actually become kind of this first agent-led iBuyer where we truly partner with agents? We leverage all our proprietary data. We leverage all the technology that we built to make it as efficient and streamlined as possible. But we have the support of the local expert. And one of the things when we first started engaging in conversation with you, we felt so passionate about the local expert plus technology plus algorithm is always going to outperform algorithm. How can we create technology that enables the agent to be as efficient as possible, to streamline so that they don't slow us down? But ultimately, if we can have them participate in the equation, we're going to ultimately be more financially efficient. And we proved that out very quickly.
Yeah, and that when we first met, we weren't sure exactly how the company was going to evolve, but we loved the theme,
right?
And we believed in it very much. Let's talk about how that theme has evolved over the last several years, because the growth curve of Fello is just absolutely incredible. It took a second to get there, and when you got there, it started taking off.
Yeah,
I'd love to hear about kind of that path.
Well, so this is where everything happens for a reason, and great entrepreneurs have to consistently evaluate their situation and opportunity, and ultimately why they're doing what they're doing. When we launched this agent-led iBuyer theme, it was all about how can we support the agent to become more efficient in this iBuying cash offer solution vehicle for a homeowner. Well, we decided that the easiest way for us to do that is to build software for them to automate that message to their database. And so we said, if we just rely on agents to bring us their opportunities, it's putting too much pressure. We're relying too much on them. Our business, our potential revenue opportunities, it's one of those things that there's a something in there that's uncontrollable to us, right? Sure, we can influence, we can market to them, we can sell to them, right? But we can't control it. And so if we can build a mechanism that ultimately we can actually go directly to their database with this message, all of a sudden we're going to be able to control the outcome in a much just more efficient manner. And so what we did was we launched what was Fello, is a platform, a marketing platform that basically said, give us your database. And what we will do is all white labeled on your behalf. We're going to market to your database. You'll have full visibility of what we're marketing to, what we're saying to them. And we're going to start creating these cash offers out of your database, right? And people are like, look, if you can generate some opportunities out of my database and we can see what you're sending and we have full visibility, right? Go ahead. So in beta, we launched in, I believe, June of 22. I had 600 users ready to go. We pushed them into Fello. We started marketing in the first 30 days. We generated 400 offer requests with, zero customer acquisition costs, right? Like these are organically driven out of their databases. They were pushing, those offers were pushing directly to us. And we kind of felt like we figured this out, right? We're good. This is going to be massive. Well, the challenge was in June of 22, interest rates went from about 4% to 5%. And by July, they were at 6%. And by August, they were at 7%. And all of a sudden, that put a lot of pressure on the unit economics of iBuying, right? And we're, once again, making offers for the future. So we're building that in. That's all of a sudden creating friction within the sales process. And what we started realizing was people were really loving the engagement of their database and the software we built. And they didn't really care if we bought the house or not. They just loved that they had these stale databases of people that they hadn't talked to in a while. And we realized really quickly that, is that worth more to them than the actual idea of us being a iBuying partner? And we very quickly pivoted by October of 22, realized that there is much more scale in SaaS. Realize that there's a lot more ways that we can monetize this long term through marketplace and network effect and distribution and all these other cool channels that we're starting to get into that stage of our company. And we were just really excited to make the pivot. We didn't know how it would go, but we launched in Q4 of 22. We were cash flow positive within 5 months into launching the SaaS product, and we haven't looked back since.
An amazingly quick path to profitability. So you had product market fit, like you saw that pretty early. There was very strong signal, but you could tell there was a much more scalable way of building the business. To take a moment and talk about just the scalability.
Well, one of the things that I remember used to get upset with me. I used to keep saying the word demand, right? And one of the fortunate things that I have always had the opportunity that I bring to the table is, because I've built such a large real estate organization, I'm highly respected around the country for what I've built. I have large platforms that I can speak on with large audiences, where ultimately people want to hear what I'm building and how I built, my real estate business. And so when we were the iBuying product, I went on a stage in Austin, and I think there's probably 5,000 people out there, and I was being interviewed, and I was telling them how we built this product where there's this iBuying component and we're creating all this database engagement. And literally after, people are running up to me, hey, I'm in Oregon, can you come to me? And it's like, well, we're only in these markets right now. Hey, I'm in Arizona, I will sign up today. And I started realizing I was saying no to so many people because we couldn't scale operationally, right? But they had the same pain point that every other user that was already using the product had. And so I remember when I went to you, and I'm just like, we have so much demand for this. I can't tell you how much demand there is. Like, if we go SaaS, we can fulfill the demand, right? Because I don't need operation. They can work with their own partners. We can create a marketplace of different buyers. And so I kind of was in a fortunate position where I was able to leverage some of my, clout and some of the just success I've had within the industry to really distribute the offering that we had. And once we went live to market with the SaaS product, I mean, we kind of already had a line out the door just organically. And so it was a lot easier to make that phone call to be like, I know I told you we weren't coming to your market, but I've got great news. And so very quickly we saw really high traction. And one of the best pieces of advice that we got was we when we decided to pivot to SaaS, we kept saying internally, me and the two other co-founders, the product's not ready. It's not ready. It's not ready. We still have to we have to build more. It's not there yet. And I remember we were planning on not even going to market until Q1 of 23. And we got pushed pretty aggressively by you and a few other people of saying, get the product out there. You're making too many assumptions. Get the product out there and actually iterate based off of real feedback, right? And so why we're so fortunate is because we got the product out there. We did see the demand and traction, and we got real feedback in real time where we were able to iterate. And so it allowed us to build a better product quicker while also generating revenue simultaneously.
Yeah, you guys have been fantastic at collecting that feedback in real time and being very flexible and quick.
Yeah. It is probably, we're 110 employees right now, and I still look at us as a speedboat because we listen so deeply to the users. We are observing behaviors of the users so intimately that it's like, that's really what our roadmap is based off of. Is we have some internal things that ultimately are, I would say, on top of or expansion outside of our existing users. But I think one of the reasons why, from an NRR perspective and from an NPS perspective, the reason why we've seen the success that we've had in a very short period of time is we are so obsessed with the way the users use the product and ultimately how they enjoy the product, the pain points they have. And lastly, one of our secret sauces is I am kind of the ICP of our own product, right? Because I still own the real estate company and I don't run it anymore. Luckily, my brother took that over a few years ago. But because I am so close to the industry and my company is still a user of the product, I really get to observe the pain points that the company has in real time. And we are so close to what the users are saying about it. It allows us to be really in tune to what we need to build.
And how has the industry looked at you compared to any competitive offering that's out there?
Yeah. I think the industry looks at us with the competitive advantages that we have and the reason why we've scaled so quickly. Right now, we are currently just in the real estate industry. We're about to go to an adjacent vertical and mortgage. I think the industry, first off, trusts us because I come from the industry. And so that always gives us a little bit of credibility when you're talking about annual contracts and you're talking about, upfront fees and annual agreements and stuff like that. I also think that one of the differentiators between us and the majority of products within the real estate space, the majority of products in the real estate space are not venture backed. They're just building for the real estate industry. They look at their TAM as just real estate agents, right? We are looking at the real estate industry as kind of our intro. When we're B2B, we kind of look at the real estate industry as like our introduction to an industry that we know intimately, that we're going to go really deep in, but then we're going to go and scale outside of it as well. We're going to go really wide to other industries that have the same pain points. And the reason why I say that is because we have built a product, we have built a CS team, we have built an engineering team that is really building a product for something much bigger than just the real estate industry. And I think this is the first time that the real estate industry realizes what really rapid innovation looks like and what true customer success looks like and what true customer support and operational and onboarding and solutioning. We've really built this to scale very, very big. And most of our competitors are just happy with, the 1.5 million agents is their TAM, and therefore they don't make the investments into the infrastructure of the company to scale something much bigger than that. In the end user feels it,
Yeah. Yeah. So looking back, how are you enjoying being a tech entrepreneur versus a chef?
I still can't. I still struggle to merge a three-way call on an iPhone. I still struggle sometimes to talk on mute while I'm on a Zoom call. I thought that those technical incompetencies that I have would just like evaporate once I became a tech CEO. Um, I have never had so much fun in my life. I am very involved. What I love about what I do is I'm very closely involved with our product and the direction that we continue to build our product, which to me is like a dream job. It's literally like, it's just fun, right? And then I'm very close to our customers. And so I kind of have this unique position where we have 110 employees and I have very few direct reports, and I get to spend a lot of time on the things I like to do. I like to talk to our customers. I like to talk to large enterprises and strategic partners. And I like to work on our product because it makes me, I have so much passion around the product that we're building that it really resonates when I'm talking to these potential prospects. And so I am, it helps when you're winning. It helps that we're growing, and a lot of my passion pushes through to our clients and to our community that we built. We got 20,000 users, 2,300 teams on the platform. Like a lot of them look at my passion and it inspires them to ultimately, build big real estate businesses. And I'm kind of living my dream job.
That's awesome. Yeah, when there's a lot of pull from the universe and you're building a highly scalable, great margin business, it can be a lot of fun.
It's a lot of fun, and it has its challenges. It has its ups and downs. But I once again, I said I'm a worker. I have always been like, to me, if I'm not working, I'm going crazy. And the fact that I consider what I do work is like, I came from the restaurant industry where you were there for 14 hours a day. You were busting your hump. Like that was work. Like this to me is literally like, it's fun. It is much more of what I loved about the real estate industry, the relational aspects. I couldn't ask for anything more.
Well, I'll tell you, I've thoroughly enjoyed working with the company. I've thoroughly enjoyed working with you. I find both our brainstorming and our debates very fulfilling because we end up with some great calls, and certainly the company has been on an amazing path. This is like early innings still, and I really expect great things out of Fello.
Yeah, the collaboration has been so helpful, and obviously, as a first-time founder, co-founder Steven has had a couple nice runs, but it's so beneficial to have a partner in you that, first off, we're very comfortable just having those debates and open dialogue. I also know that we're in kind of a unique situation where we have this intimate board where it's like, we don't feel pressure when we go into board meetings. We feel like they're actually collaboration sessions where we feel like we're working together, where we can talk about things we're excited about, things we're concerned about. And, one of the things that I think you asked about, capital efficient, profitable businesses, I appreciate. We are so committed to growing what we consider as responsibly aggressive, right? Like we've been cash flow positive the last 7 quarters while also scaling to, 8 figures in annual recurring revenue in 2 years. And while we know that, in the venture world, profitability is not normally common with high growth startup. The fact that you're supporting us in the way we're doing it, right? And the fact that you make us very comfortable in our strategy, I think is just, it really makes us enjoy continuing to build it,
That's great. Well, look, thank you for doing this conversation. A lot of people are following your success here and are eager to see what happens. So I really appreciate this conversation. We'll have another one in a couple of years, and there'll be lots more to talk about.
I love it. I'm excited. Just keep building it.